Hey everybody, welcome to the June live stream. Let me get here, get a little situated. Apparently my camera is off. I don't know how that happened. Yeah, so it seems like, did we not do a May live stream? I don't know. I think maybe we didn't. I don't know. I don't remember canceling it, but it feels like it's been quite some time since we've had a live stream. So, glad to be back. If you're unfamiliar, this is Cares Penco live stream. I am Paul, your host and answerer of questions. Hello, Ian. Hopefully, get a few more people jump on here before I dive into stuff. Got several things to go over, so that should be cool. And then, obviously, like we always do. Yeah, Bob, it does feel weird. It is, yeah, it's a little bit weird, but it still seems like it's been longer than a little over a month and a half. But yes, it does seem weird that it's not the second Friday. We're gonna jump into some stuff and then, probably answer some questions if you guys have any. I do have like 5 or 6 things to show off. Some stuff that's already been released. I just kind of want to talk about because we've had some emails about it, and so I figured I'd cover it on the live stream. That I can refer future emails just to specific parts of the live stream to kind of talk about it instead of typing it all out over and over and over again. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at. I'll give it a couple more minutes before we kind of get into stuff. Anyway, how's everyone been doing? Populate the chat with your letting me know how your summer has been so far. It's hot here. So that's how my summer's been so far. Hopefully yours is not nearly as blistering as it is in Arizona, but I made that decision. Yeah, we missed you too. We were not able to make that show. And then the weird thing is we had hoped to make it to the St. Louis show. And then, I don't know, it's miscommunication internally, and that one fell apart too. So, next show is going to be, boy, I'm trying to think. Bill's going to the Pacific Northwest show, which is in, I think, Portland. Just a little bit. It's I think it's a real tiny show. But I think he's heading up to that one. I feel like is it early next month? I can't remember off the top of my head because it wasn't on our calendar of events to go to, and then some other people that we know are going to it, and they invited us. So I need to do some resizing of stuff on my screen so I don't get distracted, and then we'll jump right into stuff. So. Hey James, how's it going? Glad you love our products. Hopefully, we got some newer stuff coming out soon that people can kind of jump on as well. All right, I'm going to jump into stuff. So you're not going to see my face for probably a good portion of the live stream because I'm going to switch cameras, and we're going to look at some pictures of stuff. So let's get started. All right. I'm going to go over this. We'll start we're going to start from right to left and kind of talk through some things. The left stuff is some new stuff that's coming up. The right stuff is some old/new stuff that we released recently. So if you've noticed several, the last 3 or 4 Fountain Pen Fridays, they've been focused on some re-releases, for lack of a better word, of Vertex product. So starting on the left, we have starting on the right, with the far right is the Maelstrom Vertex. This is the Redux. And then the 2021 020, and then the 2021 019 small batch Vertexes. So to kind of like briefly go over the reasoning behind us like re-releasing the 2021 pens, so the blue one and the brown one respectively. These two, let me just like push them up a little bit. So these two pens specifically are actually pens that were initially machined like in 2021. And then as we got through that machining run, we had issues with the material when we went to sand and polish the product, the material, for whatever reason, we were having really inconsistent finishes on them. And so we basically went through almost 100 pens that we machined for each one of these. So 100 blue ones and 100 brown ones. Well, it was about 100 blue ones and about 75 brown ones. And in 2021 for Fountain Pen Day, we were able to cobble together, a handful, I think like 25 of one and less, and like 20 or even less than 20 of the other one that we were able to get actually like that looked good, that didn't have any of the issues that we were running into, and we released those for Fountain Pen Day. So it was two very small batches out of what was supposed to be like two big releases. And a lot of that just has to do with the fact that for whatever, this material is not, I don't know the specifics of the material. It's when we purchased the lots from Turner's workshop in the UK, a lot of times he's bought a bunch of European manufactured resin. Some of it he knows, exactly, Vince knows exactly what it is. Sometimes he doesn't actually he doesn't know specific makeups or when it was manufactured and stuff like that. So I don't know specifically on what this material, these two, and then we released the green one, the Death in the Afternoon. They were all three the same base material, just with three different three different colors. And nearly all of the green we salvaged and were able to release for that release. But these two specifically had major issues, and we didn't release the majority of the pens during that initial release. They were much smaller than we had planned. And so in moving to manufacturing, to making the resins in-house with Alumilite, and then I think we've used three separate two-part epoxies in the process. Just like tweaking stuff and figuring out which one worked the best for us. We had to adjust our machining process, and then we had to adjust our sanding process, and we had to adjust our polishing process to really maximize the finish and the look of the pen. So when we tweaked all that stuff in, it allowed us to salvage about 60% 60 to 70% of the leftover pens that had problems of these two releases. And then that whole batch of like the small batch, the lost batch that we released, I don't have one of those. It's still available on the website. Because that entire batch had issues and we didn't release any of that after we manufactured it. So basically, we changed our whole polishing process, our whole sanding process, to wet sanding. It's a multi-step process. Well, we've always done wet sanding, but we added different grades of sandpaper and from different companies, and then we added a specific. Instead of doing a dry polish compound, which is what we had done in the past, a 2 or 3 process dry polishing compound, we switched to a two-part wet polishing process. That's really like maximized the look and the finish of the pins. Like they're way like brighter. The material pops a lot more. It's not a wax; it's a polish that basically polishes the surface. It has like tiny microns of like the grit on it is like really small, but it's maximized in like its own media that basically is a liquid. Kind of like it's very similar to some of the multi-step processes that are used for non-glass headlights. So that's kind of what we've moved to, which is why these pens look so much better than some of the same release that we did. Like if you put this blue one and this brown one next to one that we released in 2021, they look like nearly like different pens, unfortunately, just because our process has improved over time. So that was kind of the reasoning behind re-releasing the rest of these now, is just because we finally figured the process out. We sat down with these pens and basically like, hey, let's see if we can salvage these, work through the process, figured it all out. We're able to salvage all these pens. We're like, well, we should probably release these. And then as far as this one, the Maelstrom Redux, if you followed us for long enough, then you kind of know that we haven't really done a lot. We haven't done a lot of remachining, like basically buying the same material or having a lot of the same material on hand and re-releasing a pen years down the road, like the same exact pen. The only thing that jumps to mind for me specifically is the Marmalade Vertex. We released the Marmalade Vertex like initially with the Vertex, like with the initial run of the Vertexes. When we launched that pen, we had the first batch, or shortly after the first batch of like acrylic Vertexes, we released the Marmalade Vertex as one of the special editions. And we had a lot of that material because we bought a lot of that material from Vince. We basically bought all of that old Delta material. And so, I think it might have been even in 2021 that we released the Marmalade Redux, where it was basically the last, we reused all the last of that material to make more of the Marmalade Vertex. And that was largely because so many people had asked us to make more of that pen. Similar to this release with the Maelstrom, that pen specifically, people will mention at pen shows, hey, I saw this one, it was this blue material, it was like super shimmery with like black. Or we'll get emails or on the surveys, like, if you ever have any more of this material. And so we were fortunate enough to actually be able to purchase more of that material, because it's not a material that was limited or out of stock. It's a newer batch, and it's a slightly different. The swirls look a little bit different, and the blue is a little more blue than it is teal. I know it looks in the video on this, it looks a lot like, it looks very on the greener side of the teal, but in person it actually has, without the light right on it, it's hard to pick up in this room. It actually has a little bit more blue than the original batch did. The original batch had a lot more teal. And it'll just look that way on the video, but that's the way it actually looks in person. So it's really difficult, because even as you turn it, when the light hits it, it really pops that brighter color. But this blue that's down here at the bottom, you can kind of see, is actually more prevalent in the pen itself. So that's kind of why we returned to this one specifically and released that today. So that's kind of why we've done these re-releases, is just because we've gotten to the point where A, we finalized the process, and B, we had enough people that asked for this one. It was on the list of ones to do. We were able to machine the batch, and that material machines really easily. It's a standard acrylic that's made in, I think, England. So that one for the Maelstrom Redux is basically a beautiful material that's super easy to machine. we've just kind of like been holding on to it for a while. All right, moving along to the other two pens, or the pencil and the pen that are on the left there. These are going to be released next week. So the first one there, the pencil is Prospector retractable, ringed retractable with our new milled clip. And because we manufacture the click mechanism, it's got like the blue that matches the blue, but also the brass in the top. Brass grip section. This was kind of the plan that we had to do a while ago when we released the Prospector retract with the bead. We wanted to get this done as well. Unfortunately, the anodizer was unable to get us these parts at the same time. I think they ended up losing a bunch of they basically lost all of the ring for the mechanism. Are the rings different colors or is it camera artifact? In the pencil, the rings are just it's just darker because it started to basically when the grip was polished, it's just patinated a little bit in the rings. It's not as bright because the stones that we use don't get in there, and so like the rings look darker. So it's kind of a trick of the light, but it's also the internal rings are never as shiny as the external part of the pen, just because the process that we use to polish those. So it's always going to look a little bit dark. There's going to be a little bit contrast in there. But anyway, when we had the pens done in this colorway, this piece here, the part of the button that we did blue, they lost all those. They're tiny. They apparently got set aside somewhere and they lost them. So we had to redo this entire basically the entire pen, the entire part that was anodized, because it all needs to be anodized together because they can't color match. So that's why this one's a little bit late. This will be the final retractable special release that we have for quite some time, just because we're out of aluminum. I don't really have any aluminum pieces left in terms. Well, actually, we might have enough for one more release, but that's going to be down the road, probably at the end of the year. This is kind of the last special release retractable that we do for any of the near future. The ink rollerball, there's going to be a fountain pen version of this as well. This is the OD Green Cerakote. So we released a while ago, we had some K-series in this color and some retracts, and I think maybe some bolts done in this color. So it looks brown in this, and it always shows up kind of brown, but it's actually like it's officially called OD Green on the Cerakote website. So you can kind of, if you're curious as to what it looks, there's better images of on other products. You can refer to the Cerakote website and look up their OD Green. It's a really nice color, totally different than any of the other ones we released. It's kind of a greenish brown, looks really cool, feels really cool. We've actually had these pens done for a long time, but we didn't have any clips. So I wasn't able to release this. We've been out of ink clips for a considerable amount of time. And if you read the release of the Jawbreaker ink, you know that we're making the clips in-house now. The ink clips are all being made in-house. One of the reasons that we were out of clips is because there's three major reasons why we were out of the clips. In the beginning, when we tried to source the clips for a while, the lead time was huge on getting our standard stainless steel clips. So in the past, all of our clips for the ink were basically, we purchased a sheet of stainless steel, we sent it to our water jet partner, they water jetted them, and then we brought it back. we milled the finish and the holes in each individual clip. So we had a problem sourcing the material about last year at this time. The lead time was huge, and we didn't purchase it then. So we waited because we had some still on hand. And as time went on, it was like, well, now we're out. We don't have any. They're all on the pens that we have. So we went back and tried to source it, and the price had gone up exponentially. Basically, the price went up to the point where it instead of being less than $1 per clip in amortized cost over the entire sheet, it was going to be close. It was going to be over $5 a clip. The cost of that material had gone up that much. And we just felt uncomfortable passing that kind of cost increase on to the customer. And there was no way we could absorb that cost in the pen itself after all is said and done. So we basically decided to manufacture them internally, like from start to finish, out of aluminum, which allows us now to anodize them instead of finding other ways to color them, like nitride or any of the other ways that we've colored the clips in the past, Cerakote. This one is actually is not a matte black. It's just a black without a gloss coat on it. And then so it's actually shinier than it is in this, but the contrast with the very, very shiny grip makes it look like it's completely matte black. Anyway, so now we're manufacturing them from the jump, from the get-go. We basically mill them on our machines from 6061, the same material that the pen itself is made out of. It's going to allow us to basically anodize clips in a bunch of different colors. So that will be an option. We'll actually be, as I get some of the different colors in, as we have more of the raw clips on hand, I'll get some standard colors in. We'll probably end up selling some of these clips by themselves with screws, just because we don't have the screw stripping issue of the threads being stripped on the inks that we do on the retractable pens. There's just a lot more. The threads in the ink are a lot more like durable because there's way more surface area in the ink than there is in like the retract or the bolt and stuff like that. So you'll probably be able to purchase different colored ink clips in the future by themselves. These two the pencil and the pen, the OD green ink in fountain pen and rollerball, and then the pencil will be released next week. Those are going to kind of be like the big releases but before the end of the month. We have a decent amount of the pencils. I think we only have like a handful of the inks. This was kind of like a throwaway. They had some random inks there, and they were leftover inks from a different batch. And they're like, "Hey, what color do you want these?" And we just said, "Do them OD green," and we got them back. So kind of cool. It's basically the second release that we have that has the features our in-house manufactured clip. We think it's a cool thing to release. It's kind of like we're launching that here. Hope to have some more colors of the ink clip in the future so that people can kind of like get that stuff. I don't have any of the speedsters with me, but that's a big deal too. If you're into that type of thing, we just released the next colors of the speedsters, the black and the blue. We still have some of those available on the website. So that's kind of like wrapping up the month. I wanted to be able to explain the Vertex stuff specifically because we had a lot of questions about, why are you guys re-releasing this stuff? What's the deal behind these? Like, is it are there different pens and all that stuff? And then kind of wanted to show off the stuff that's coming up next week. Then let's move this out of the way and bring this in. And we will briefly talk about these. I'm not sure specifically whether or not Tommy has shown any of these off on Instagram or on any of those other social media platforms that we use. So what's the deal on these pens? So if you are part of the pen club, or have followed us on Instagram for a long enough time, you know that every once in a while we'll release stuff via Instagram. Yeah, so they have been posted on social media. So those those other three will be sold specifically on Instagram. Those are going to be sold on Instagram themselves. They're kind of the Instagram release. These 6 will be sold to the Pen Club members. So Pen Club members via lottery form. If you're familiar with some of the stuff that we've done with these before, DJ, who is a local artist, he's done a bunch of the art around here, around the shop. We've released pens that he's painted in the past. He did some Pac-Man pens, and he did some, he did custom work that you might have seen. Some, like, there's a person that commissioned some of our pens to be painted like Woody and Buzz from Toy Story. That was a commission directly with DJ, and DJ painted them for that customer. So that customer purchased the pens from us, did that. I don't know how, Ian. I don't know how they're gonna do the Instagram release. You should direct message Tommy on Instagram and ask them how they're gonna do that one on there. I don't know if it's gonna be first come first serve or not. Sometimes they do first come, like the first one that says in. Sometimes they do lottery, but he's gonna be running that. These 6 will be via a lottery form for the Pen Club. This will be sent out next week. Again, if you followed any of these releases before in the past that we've done with DJ's pens, these are, I want to be very upfront and honest. They're art pieces. You can use them. The paint will wear off over time, especially if you put them, like I have one that was like a mess, one that he messed up. The paint doesn't match exactly. And I think I carried it in my pocket for like a month, and like one side of it wore off just from the friction in my pants. So the paint will wear off over time. Some of the paint's more durable than other paint. These version, I don't know what we're going to call these. To me, every time I see these pens, all I think of is like the video game Fallout, or like old World War II airplanes, with the paint kind of like wind blown and come off of them. So I don't have a specific name for these. Like I said, it's very like, not even steampunk. It's very like, I don't even know what the term is. They're super unique. I can't remember what DJ said he was drawing inspiration from when he talked about these, but you can kind of see the different clips. He's painted inside the the screws and everything. There's some of them have, that one doesn't. Let me see if I can find one. Oh, maybe I don't have one that has it. I think Tommy took all the ones that had that. Some of the tops of the ones that Tommy have the knobs have stars on them or other designs on them. So they're super cool looking. These will all be offered to the Pen Club via lottery. So if you're in the Pen Club now, that's how that's going to go. Be aware up front, these are rather expensive. They're, like I said, we consider them art pieces. They are definitely art pieces. We released a handful of red, white, and blue pens about a month ago that were the same thing. They were painted by him. And these will be priced similarly to those, so right around $250. Like I said, very expensive, but that basically covers the cost of having them painted from him. He is an amazing artist. He's not cheap. There's some stuff that I would love to have him do because I've seen some of the stuff that he's done for other people with some of the cartoon characters that I really, really, really like. But it's like super expensive. So I'm gonna have to save up to get some of the stuff done that I would like to have done. But I know that he's taken commissions in the past from people, and he's constantly doing different things. I am going to give you guys a little bit of a hint, a little bit of a heads up. We have given him some speedsters as well, just a handful of speedsters. So he is going to do some non-pen stuff. He's going to paint some speedsters. Have no idea what they're going to look like. No clue what he's going to put on them. Basically, when we give stuff to DJ, we are like, hey, just do whatever you feel like doing on these. The stuff that is commissioned, like that's a different thing. Like he does those for people because they basically pay him to do specific stuff. So when he comes in and we're like, hey, we got this, you want to paint on these, we'll just be like, do whatever you feel like doing on them. Whatever looks cool, all your art's awesome, so you can go ahead and just go all in on it. So I have no idea what the speedsters are going to look like, and I'm sure we'll have some stuff in the future with him. These aren't going to be sold like randomly, these 6 to the pen club. They'll be numbered, and basically you'll be able to, hey, I would prefer, I only want the green one. If I don't get chosen for the green one, I don't want any of them, type of thing. So because they're so different, I'm not going to just randomly like, oh, I want, if you want one, like, that's not the way it is. But I will say, like, potentially, we'll have more people interested in the same one. So it's just kind of luck of the draw. We'll do the random generator. I think the email for these will go out on Tuesday or Wednesday, and then we'll probably run it through the entire week and draw the winners. The email will probably go out on Tuesday. We'll run it all through Wednesday and Thursday, and then we'll draw winners on Friday, and send them the invoices on Friday. So that's kind of that last one. The last stuff that I have to show off. I don't think I have anything else I was going to cover. I definitely don't have anything else here. So, let's bring it back. It was 30 minutes of talking about other stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up to, I know there's not very many people in the chat that I can see, so it might be a little bit shorter today than normal, but if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat now. I'll be happy to answer anybody's questions that they have or concerns. Otherwise, we might wrap up a little bit early because I don't have anything else. I have a decograph update. We do have the decographs that are done are off the machine officially. So larger batches of decographs will be coming up here shortly. I would say I'm gonna guess and say mid July we should have the first batch of decographs up on the website. So there's that. What's in store for the rest of the year? I don't know for sure what's in store for the rest of the year. We're going to be making ink clips out of brass. So now that we're making ink clips, we're going to add brass ink clips. In terms of like new stuff, it's hard to say. We would like to prototype a new pen before the end of the year. That's kind of like, that's definitely one of the, I don't want to say top things that we have in the works, but like prototyping a new pen is definitely in like the top 5 of stuff that we want to do. And by new pen, I mean, it's going to be something that we've had like on paper for probably like 2 years, but we're finally going to get it on the machines and like actually prototype it. We have some non-pen stuff coming up. I can't really share specifics on that at this point. I'm hoping to be able to share some of that stuff in the July live stream. But that's don't know for sure. It's not. It hasn't been officially signed off on by the boss yet. Let's see. What are the 3 new bottles? I actually don't have any new bottles behind me. All of this stuff has been there before. If you're talking about these here, Generations of Proof, that's actually been there for a while now. They have those at Costco. Actually, they're not releasing these anymore. It's a Maker's Mark release. They bottled them together. They're smaller bottles. I think this is the 3rd release of them, and I think they did a 4th one, and then Maker's Mark decided not to do them anymore. So, Adam, do you plan on doing the ink roller ball in titanium? Yes. So the titanium stuff, the titanium pens are probably going to be put on pause for a couple of reasons. One being the cost of titanium that we purchase, which has to be ground to size, has continued to go up to the point where anything we would purchase and manufacture moving forward, the cost of each individual pen would need to go up significantly for us to make any money off of titanium pens. And so we're basically not gonna we're gonna pause the manufacture of. We're not gonna order any more titanium for the foreseeable future, just because we don't see in the current market, we don't see an ROI, like any kind of ROI on it right now. The cost would put it so much further beyond what the majority of people are spending on writing instruments right now, that we can't justify investing that kind of capital in a product that will sit on the shelf for a long time, based on what we're seeing right now. So we had always planned on doing the ink and the Vertex as the last, basically the other 2 pens that we were going to do out of titanium, but for the foreseeable future, until we can figure something else out, that's not going to happen right now. So that's kind of where we're at with titanium pen manufacture. Whatever we have in the works that we've already purchased the material for, we'll wrap that up, and that will be really relegated to what we've already manufactured in terms of like the bolt, retract, and the EDK, because that's the material size that we purchased for those pens. Those all use the same size of material, diameter of material. So we'll basically run what we have on for enough pens to release some more of those, and then we'll basically pause it potentially. It'll definitely be something that Bill and I talk about as we move forward, just like anything that we pause, like the same thing with the bronze. Like, we're not manufacturing anything out of bronze anytime soon again. The same thing with happened with that. Like, our cost on the bronze went up dramatically, and based off of historic sales of that material, it just wasn't a wise business decision to invest that kind of money in it and then have to sit on the product like we do right now, because the cost had increased so much. So that's kind of where we're at with bronze and titanium. For the foreseeable future, most of the metal pens will solely be done in aluminum, brass, and copper. Because even with the increase in aluminum, it's not dramatic enough for us to increase the price in that. And copper and brass, for whatever reason, have stayed relatively stable post 2021 increase in price from the vendors that we use. So that's kind of where we're at with that. Church Boy, what's the status of the new quote unquote redesigned website? That's a good question. I haven't updated that in a while. I basically have done a ton of, I don't want to say a ton of the work. I've done a lot of the work on product creation and the overall look and feel of it. I think that was the last update I gave you guys. And then we've started doing plugin API install with the developer who helped us develop our original Magento website. So this is a different person than we used for our last website. This is the person that we had for our first website, which functioned smoothly and was great. And so he's built multiple websites in Magento for other people, does a lot of all that stuff. So we trust him to continue to do that. What we're attempting to do is increase some of our live rate shipping for alternative shipping methods outside of USPS and FedEx, or increasing options with USPS and FedEx, and then potentially adding, specifically like internationally, adding live rate shipping. There will be a change in how we ship stuff when we move to the new website. So between that and the payment plugin, those are our two big hangups right now. And so he is working on those two things currently, in terms of figuring out what's holding up the process. We were having a bunch of timeout issues when we were testing things. And so it's possible that we're going to have to move the whole, export the whole site to a different server, or increase the server, our price, our bandwidth on the server that we're currently using. One of the other things, he's handling all of that stuff. So we're hoping that it's sooner rather than later. Couple months at the most. We would love to see it go live sometime this summer, and then work through all that stuff. Now, just a heads up, with us moving to this new website, we're going to be moving to a new email service provider as well. And so there will be, at some point, once we get the green light, hey, we're getting close. We're like 60 days out. We'll start, or 45 days out, or whenever, we'll start sending with our current email provider. We'll start sending emails out saying, hey, if you want to still be subscribed to our newsletter, please go here and subscribe at this link, because it's going to shift from our current third-party provider, basically newsletter program, to a different third-party program, specifically because our current newsletter software that we use is not compatible with Magento. And so we're shifting to another platform that is compatible with Magento, so that we can manage stuff like tagging, so that all the people that are in the pen club are basically put into their own group. It's all automated. So when you purchase a pen club pen, I don't have to go in there and manually add you to any list. You basically purchase it, automatically adds you to the list, and you go into the funnel for the pen club newsletter stuff. So a lot of that stuff just needs to be automated, so I don't spend hours and hours of my day doing stuff like that. So that's kind of where we're at with the new website. Still in the works. Most of the actual creation and stuff like that is complete. It's just now we're in the phase of okay, we need to test this API, we need to test this, we need to test this. Hopefully in the next 30 days we're sending test links out to some people that we work with for them to kind of stress test the site in terms of going through an entire transaction, signing up for the newsletter, signing up just for site membership, so that you can track your orders and everything like that. And that's one of the things that we're attempting to kind of work out, is whether or not we can import orders from WooCommerce into Magento easily, or whether we're gonna whether that's not going to be an option. It wasn't an option going from Magento to WooCommerce. I don't know that I don't expect it to be an option going from WooCommerce back to Magento, unfortunately. So we'll be downloading all of that into a spreadsheet so that we can reference orders if you have a question about one of your older orders after this, after we switch over, stuff like that. So that's kind of where we're at on the website. Any other questions? Sorry, I'm kind of all over the place. I mean, I don't feel like I'm all over the place, but it seems like I'm kind of going through everything relatively quickly. I kind of stopped bringing like more whiskey to work just because there's a ton of it that I already have here. And I tend to like, I don't drink at work. We used to use it for Whiskey Wednesday and stuff like that. So maybe I should take all these home and bring in some actual like new stuff so it looks a little bit different. But plans on more faceted and or anodized dragon skin bolts. I really like those. Trying to think so I don't think we actually have any more dragon skins titanium stuff right now. Because we sold through the majority of it. I know that that Josh is doing more titanium bolt stuff. I don't know if he's doing any more dragon skin stuff or not. It's possible that he is, and then we will have more. But I don't have a list of all the stuff that he plans on putting out. I think he's. I'm trying to remember what he's focusing on. I think he's doing uppers right now, and then he'll do lowers after that. But I'm not 100% sure. I hope we have at least one more batch of the dragon skin stuff, simply because that one was like, those were like kind of a bit, those are the more popular version of the titanium ones that we had. But right now I don't know for sure. I don't know that we're going to do any faceted stuff in the future. Just because that was something Zoe did, and I don't know that we've actually like talked about it, but like Zoe actually took a position at another company doing something that she like was not more interested in, but doing stuff that she'd worked in before. So she basically has moved on from our company. She did a bunch of stuff before she left, poured a bunch more pens so that we had more pens to release in terms of like vertexes and decagraphs. But we didn't get she didn't do any more like faceted stuff because that work is like really, really time consuming. So she didn't end up doing any of that stuff before she left. So we just have to find somebody else to do that going forward. And we haven't really identified anybody to do that. In the interim, between myself, G, and Tommy, we've kind of like absorbed her role, like what she was doing between the three of us, the majority of that type of thing in terms of like in the future with making the resin pens internally. It'll be, a collaboration between myself and G. Tommy's doing a lot of the polishing and sanding on the current stuff that we have, even the stuff that that she poured at, like, that's just sitting back there, it's done. He'll be doing the finishing process on that, and we really haven't identified anybody to do that, the anodized titanium or basically the faceting portion of that. A lot of that has to do with the fact that's really, really time consuming. And between the three of us, our other jobs take up a considerable amount of our time. So we haven't, unfortunately, we haven't had the time to sit back there and do any of those. But hopefully it's something that happens, over the summer. We're able to crank some of those out because they're hugely popular at our pen shows. Like we sell probably 5 or 6 at a minimum of the anodized or the anodized titanium or the faceted stuff at a pen show if we have it. There's been a couple pen shows where we've sold like 15 to 20 of those at the pen show. So we know that they're extremely popular in person. So Brian, so the Pacific Northwest show, the Portland show, Bill is actually going to be there himself with his wife. So yeah, so that's, you're going to be able to meet the man himself. Bill's actually kind of, I think it's one of those, like, we're going to go and do the show. We're also going to do a vacation thing. He does that quite a bit. So that's pretty, and it kind of came up out of the blue. So it's far easier for him to kind of shift what he has going on, go to a show that we hadn't planned on going to right away, that we hadn't planned on going ahead of time. So he can kind of like pivot to that. So yeah, it'll be Bill and his wife, Kizzy. They'll be there. What products will be offered for Karis's next anniversary this year? I wish I had an answer for that question. I'm laughing because I don't honestly like. That is actually something that I should have had planned out by now. That I need to plan. That Bill and I probably need to sit down and plan after the 4th of July holiday. So if that's, I guess, another thing we can briefly go over. The 4th of July holiday is coming up, where we basically close for like 10 days, a week, 10 days, reset everything. There's a big cleaning that we do here internally, come back, restart everything up after that, and kind of circle the wagons and relaunch the whole process. There's usually like time for us to sit down and like talk about stuff going forward. So more than likely, either in that short period of time where a lot of the guys are like, where none of the machines are running at the end of next week, likely. If it doesn't happen by the end of next week, where Bill and I sit down and kind of plan that out, then it will have to happen right after we come back, where Bill, myself, and probably G sit down and Josh sit down and kind of go over some of that stuff. I don't know what we're going to do in terms of the anniversary stuff itself. If we are able to prototype some new pins, that might be the release of some of those prototypes. With that, if we're able to be in the process of launching some non-pen product, those non-pen products might be in there as well. Probably, fingers crossed, we might have an adaptation of the speedsters that will be available. So something a little bit different than what we have right now. I don't know for sure if that's going to happen either. It's kind of up in the air, more based off of like, I got to look at what we're realistically going to have on hand. I've had a plan for some other stuff that's not directly anniversary style related, that I haven't been able to do that stuff either. So it's really hard to plan right now, for a variety of different reasons, partly because we're short-staffed, so we're all like doing random stuff, and then we're not able to, like, what we planned last year is not happening due to we can't source titanium, affordably, and we can't outsource processes affordably or in a timely fashion. So it's still kind of up in the air. I'm not sure where we're at on that one. It's definitely going to be something that I hope to have nailed down by the end of July, and we'll do an update if we do a later July live stream, we'll cover that. If not, it'll probably be an update in the August live stream. So, Ian, what is your top selling pen? A bolt of some kind, probably. I mean, it depends on if you take the Vertex as a whole, like that line as a whole. We sell a lot of Vertex fountain pens. So, like, if you take all of the special editions and put them together, we sell a lot of Vertexes, especially like last year. I think over time, just like the one that stands out itself is probably going to be either the black anodized, standard black anodized bolt or the brass bolt are probably the two best, like, top selling pens since they were released. We sell a lot of bolts. The bolt is by far if you take the entire bolt line, including all of like the different versions, the grip section versions, the bolt is definitely the pen we sell the most of. Way, even if you factored in all of we've done a lot of custom EDKs for people. Like, even if you take the 1,000 EDKs that we did just for Mack trucks and all those other brands that bought a bunch of EDKs, the bolt by itself as a whole sells more than anything else does. That would have been Bill, Ian. You met Bill and his wife. Yeah, okay. I was gonna say, I read the first, then I read you met Bill and his wife. My wife doesn't travel to shows mostly because like she's also working. So, we've met a few people just randomly when we were on vacation and I was like hiding a pen or something. All right, so if that's everything, wow, it's just about been an hour. If anybody has any last questions before I wrap it up. Yeah, we're actually, I think we're going to be at that knife show in the fall as well. Like, they have another in October. CCKS has another show. And I think we're going to be at that show as well. So Bill will be at that show, probably with Kizzy as well. So might see him again if you go to that show. I don't know for sure. We still have plans to go to DC. As far as I know, we still have plans to go to San Francisco. Those are the two shows specifically that I know off the top of my head that we're going to go to, like for sure. And those are both in August. So, but otherwise, it's like the Pacific Northwest show in Portland, and then DC and San Francisco, and then Bill should be at that custom California knife show in October. All right. If there isn't anything else, guys, thank you so much for being here. As always, thanks for your questions. If you forgot to ask something, you can always shoot us an email or post it in the comments below. Market research. Yeah, that is probably one of the things that we're doing at the knife shows. I'll leave it at that. Probably doing some market research at the knife shows. Yes. Plus, he did sell a decent amount of pens at that show. It's one of the few knife shows that you can go to and not have a knife that you manufacture. So, like, as a pen manufacturer, they allow us to go. But like Blade Show, in order to be at Blade Show, you have to have a knife. You have to manufacture a knife or be at a table, like rent part of a table that has knives. So, like, if you team up with somebody, like, you can do that. And we don't plan on doing that. Excuse me. All right. So thank you guys for being here. If you have any additional questions or comments, you can post them in a comment below, or you can always email info@karascustoms.com or myself, paul@karascustoms.com. If you're looking for something specific that, like, we haven't covered in a while, or like a specific pen that potentially we're out of stock on that you wanted to purchase that you noticed, those are the places to email as well to find that out. we'll be back here again next month. I don't have any plans on canceling any of the live streams. That's not something that we're going to do unless something randomly, comes up like, I'm sick and there's nobody else to sit in or something like that. So otherwise, this is definitely going to be a monthly thing that we continue to do. So hopefully you guys, this covered enough stuff that you understand where we're at currently and where we're at moving forward. Really appreciate you guys being here and the questions that you asked, just spending the time with me. All right. That's a long, winding wrap up, but I will see you again next month. Enjoy your 4th of July, because we won't speak before 4th of July for sure. If we do the live stream, it will be after the 4th of July. Stay safe. If there's anything that you are looking for specifically, you can always reach out to me. I will talk to you again soon. Bye, everybody.